All right, so have you ever wondered what the tech world would look like without, say, Microsoft?
It's a question that makes you think, right? And we're actually really lucky to have two speeches that dive right into, the heart of how Microsoft became, well, Microsoft.
And it's really a fascinating story. You almost think of it like a tech version of like the American dream.
Yeah, starting small.
Humble beginnings.
Exactly. 1975.
Yeah.
Bill Gates and Paul Allen
Garage.
in Albuquerque,
New Mexico.
New Mexico. And their whole goal, their vision was to make computers, I don't know, something everyone could use, right? Like make it accessible.
It's it.
Yeah.
And their first product, I mean, it kind of kicked things off.
Altair Basic.
Altair Basic.
Yeah.
Okay, so that seems pretty straightforward, right? Like making computers accessible to everyone. But then they do something really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
1981.
IBM.
Partnership.
Huge partnership. It really changed the game for them because it introduced MS-DOS
MS-DOS.
to the world, right? I mean, pretty much every PC started running their software, and that really cemented Microsoft as, I don't know, Bates software company.
It's wild to think that Bill Gates actually dropped out of Harvard to go all in on this. What a gamble.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a risk. But it clearly paid off, right? And they just kept that momentum going. 1985. Windows 1.0. And this is where they brought the idea of a graphical user interface, like to everyone.
It was a revolution.
Totally. It wasn't about, memorizing a bunch of complicated commands anymore. It was visual. It was intuitive. It was, almost fun to use a computer.
Right. Think about it.
Yeah.
Back then, clicking on an icon, that was revolutionary.
It was. We kind of take it for granted now.
Now, totally.
But it's wild to think about the impact. Windows really made computers accessible to anyone, right? You didn't have to be some sort of tech genius. And then they took that whole user-friendly approach even further.
Well, yeah.
Like with Windows 3.0 and the Office suite.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Exactly. Think about productivity. Can you imagine life without, like, Word or Excel?
Oh, I can't even. PowerPoint.
Forget about it. And then came Windows 95. It was more than just an upgrade, I think. It was almost a cultural phenomenon.
It was.
Like the start menu, the taskbar, all this stuff we use every single day, that was brand new back then.
It's like they knew how we'd want to use computers in the future and just built it for us.
Yeah. Windows 95 really shaped like how we interact with computers even to this day.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? They had some pretty big legal battles to deal with.
Oh yeah, the antitrust lawsuits.
In 1998 to 2001.
Yeah, those were tough times. They really put their business practices, under a microscope. They had to be resilient.
But they came out on top.
They did. They really held on to that PC market share. They even surpassed some of their rivals like Apple during all that.
They weathered the storm. So what happens next? Early 2000s? What are they up to?
So they started branching out, Yeah. They got into gaming big time with the Xbox in 2001.
Huge success.
It was. And then, Windows XP came out, and that became the go-to operating system for just about everyone. But things were changing.
Oh, how so?
Well, Google Chrome arrived on the scene in 2008, and then Apple, with their Mac OS, they were becoming a bigger player.
So even while they were hitting these new highs, there were new challengers coming up ready to compete.
Exactly. And it was around this time that Bill Gates actually started to step back from the day-to-day at Microsoft.
Right, to focus more on his philanthropic work.
With the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Yeah, this was a big turning point for Microsoft in terms of, leadership.
Which leads us to Satya Nadella.
Right.
He becomes CEO in 2014. And many see this as, a defining moment for the company.
It really was. It was like a new era for Microsoft. Nadella really pushed them towards cloud computing and the whole world of AI and Azure, their cloud platform. Yeah, it took off. And now it makes up almost 60% of their revenue.
So when we talk about Azure being like a game changer, what does that mean?
It means that businesses all over the world, they depend on Azure for everything. Managing their data, running their applications, everything digital.
Wow.
I mean, Azure is the second largest cloud provider in the world, second only to Amazon Web Services.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We had this company that started with this goal of, making computers accessible to everyone.
Right.
Then they become like the kings of the PC world.
Yeah.
And now they're at the forefront of cloud computing.
Yep. And Azure is touching everything, from healthcare to manufacturing.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But there's more.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even touched on, like, their acquisitions or their ventures into AI or their, global reach.
So much to unpack. It's already mind-blowing to think about how far they've come from, that garage in Albuquerque.
I know, right? And it's not over yet.
Far from it. But I think we need to pause here. A lot to process. We'll have to pick up the rest of this incredible story in part 2 of our deep dives.
Definitely.
So until then, keep thinking about that question. Can anyone really challenge Microsoft's dominance?
It's something to think about, that's for sure, especially as we get into, their current strategies and what they have planned for the future. See you soon.
See you soon. So we're back, still diving deep into the world of Microsoft. Last time, we left off with them, kind of at the top of their game, leading the charge in cloud computing. But that got us thinking, can anyone really challenge them?
It's a really interesting question because even though Microsoft seems dominant, things in the tech world, they're always changing.
Right. It's not like they can just sit back and relax. There are always new mountains to climb.
Exactly. We talked about Azure being a huge player in the cloud, but Amazon Web Services, they're still number one. And they're constantly innovating and pushing limits. Microsoft can't afford to slow down, not even for a second.
It's like a constant chess match trying to anticipate the next move.
Yeah, great analogy. And it's not just about keeping up with the competition that's already there, right? They also have to be thinking ahead, like what's next? What needs are going to pop up that we don't even know about yet?
Like their work in quantum computing and the metaverse. Those are some pretty futuristic bets.
They are. Quantum computing, that has the potential to revolutionize everything. Medicine, material science, AI.
Yeah, how so?
Well, think about it. Developing life-saving drugs way faster, or designing completely new materials, stuff we can't even imagine right now. But it's still early days, There are still some pretty big hurdles to overcome.
So, a bit of a gamble, but with potentially huge rewards.
Exactly. And then you've got the metaverse, this whole immersive digital world where virtual and augmented reality, they kind of blend together. Microsoft sees this as a place for people to collaborate, to be creative, even to, do business.
Right, like having those virtual meetings that feel like you're actually there in person.
Yeah, or working on design projects together in a shared 3D space.
Okay.
But of course, it also brings up some ethical questions, right? Like data privacy, content moderation, and are we just going to make the digital divide even worse?
So we need to think about the ethics of it all, too. Not just the technology itself.
Absolutely. Microsoft has been pretty vocal about responsible innovation, building in safeguards for privacy and pushing for ethical AI. But these are ongoing conversations. As this technology becomes more, integrated into our lives, the ethical side of things is going to keep evolving too.
It's like we need a whole new set of rules, a whole new ethical playbook for this uncharted territory.
Exactly. And those rules, they need to protect individual rights and privacy, but also look at the bigger picture. Like, how is this going to affect society? What about jobs being replaced by automation? Or how algorithms might influence our choices? It's complicated stuff.
Big questions, no easy answers. So it sounds like navigating those ethical dilemmas is just as important as actually figuring out the tech side of things.
Right. But even with all these challenges, there's also so much opportunity. Think about a world where doctors can use AI to diagnose diseases more accurately.
Yeah.
Or quantum computers help us develop those life-saving drugs even faster. And the metaverse, that could help people connect in ways we haven't even thought of yet. Break down those geographic barriers.
It's like something out of a sci-fi novel.
But it's a future that Microsoft is actively shaping. A future that, we could all be a part of.
Exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
For sure. It's a time of huge change and possibility. And that brings us to another really fascinating part of Microsoft's story, their global reach. They're not just a tech company anymore.
Right.
They're a global citizen. And their success really depends on understanding different cultures and adapting to them.
That's interesting. Because it's one thing to, build the technology, but it's another thing entirely to make sure it works for people all over the world with different languages and customs and expectations.
Exactly. And Microsoft, they've adopted this strategy of localization. They're tailoring their products and services to fit the specific needs of different regions.
So can you give me some examples of what that looks like?
Sure. So language translation, that's huge. They've put a ton of resources into making sure their software and documentation is available in tons of different languages.
Makes sense.
So it's accessible to a much wider audience. They've also adapted their user interfaces and features to align with cultural preferences.
So it's not just about translating the words, it's about translating the whole experience.
That's it. It's about making sure the technology feels natural and intuitive no matter where you are in the world. And it goes even deeper than language. They're really aware of cultural sensitivities, making sure their products and services are, culturally appropriate and respectful.
So it's about building bridges, not just building products.
Exactly. By embracing all that diversity, Microsoft is really positioning themselves as a company that values inclusivity and, being a good global citizen.
And that's really important in our world, especially now.
Definitely. As we move forward, it's crucial to remember that technology doesn't exist in a bubble. It's shaped by the social, cultural, and political world around it, and it shapes that world in return.
It's about the human element, right? The values and intentions behind it all.
Exactly. And Microsoft's story really shows that. They've achieved some amazing things, but their future, well, it depends on more than just their technical skills. It depends on how well they can navigate these complex and constantly changing ethical, societal, and cultural landscapes.
It's clear that Microsoft's journey is far from over. What does this future hold for them? What impact are their innovations going to have on our world? Big questions.
Big questions indeed. And those are exactly the questions we'll be exploring as we head into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so here we are. The final part of our deep dive into Microsoft.
Well,
We've come a long way, right?
Yeah.
From that garage in Albuquerque to, well, this global powerhouse they are today. We've talked about the challenges, the successes, and even those big futuristic bets they're making. So as we wrap things up, I got to ask, what's next for Microsoft? What does the future hold for them?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, we can't predict the future, but we can look at what's happening now and kind of get a sense of where things might be headed. And one thing is crystal clear. Microsoft is, well, they're all in on AI. They see it as like the thing.
We touched on that a bit before with Azure and those AI tools they're building, but it sounds like it's more than just another, area they're interested in.
It's way bigger than that. They see AI as like a fundamental technology, something that's going to change, well, pretty much everything. How we work, how we communicate, how we learn, how we solve problems. It's like they're betting that AI is going to be the engine driving innovation in the 21st century.
Wow, that's a big statement. Yeah. So what's that going to look like? How's AI going to change the way we actually use technology?
Well, one area is going to be personalized experiences. Think about it. Your computer, your phone, even your car. They'll know what you need before you even ask. They'll adapt to like your preferences, your habits. And AI can make that happen by analyzing your data, learning your patterns, and then offering suggestions or help tailored just for you.
So it's like having a personal assistant that knows you better than you know yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's not just about convenience. It's about efficiency, productivity. Think about like all those routine tasks being automated. And we humans, we can focus on the stuff that requires creativity, strategic thinking. And this is already happening in a lot of industries. Microsoft's developing AI solutions to streamline those workflows and optimize those processes.
Okay, so that sounds amazing. But what about jobs? All this automation, is AI going to put people out of work?
It's a valid concern, for sure. And honestly, it's a conversation we need to be having as a society. The nature of work, it's definitely changing. And yeah, some jobs will probably be automated, but the other side of that is that AI could also create new jobs, new opportunities that we can't even imagine right now.
So it's not just about jobs disappearing, it's about the whole job market changing?
Exactly. And that means we have to invest in education and training programs that give people the skills they need to succeed in this new world of work. And Microsoft, they've recognized that. They're actually launching initiatives to boost digital literacy and offer training in those AI-related fields.
Well, that's good to hear. It sounds like they're trying to be part of the solution.
Yeah, they are. And it points to something bigger. Tech companies, they need to think about the impact their innovations are having on society. They have a responsibility to help create a future where where everyone benefits.
It's not just about the bottom line. It's about using technology to make a positive difference.
Exactly. And that long-term view, it also extends to their sustainability efforts. We mentioned before their commitment to becoming carbon negative by 2030, but it goes further than that. They're putting money into technologies and initiatives to tackle environmental problems. Think like AI-powered solutions for monitoring deforestation, making energy consumption more efficient, promoting sustainable agriculture.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to sustainability. It's not just talk.
Yeah, they get it. Climate change, it's one of the biggest challenges we face, and they're using their resources, their expertise to be part of the solution.
It's encouraging to see a company that big, that powerful, taking sustainability seriously.
And it's not just altruism, it's good business too. I mean, consumers, they're demanding sustainable products and services, and companies that prioritize that, they're going to have a real advantage.
So it's a win-win situation.
Exactly, and I think this really highlights what Microsoft's all about when it comes to the future. It's not just about pushing the boundaries of technology for the sake of it. They want to use technology as a force for good, to create a world that's more sustainable, more inclusive, more equitable for everyone.
That's a big vision, but it sounds like they're serious about it.
They are, and as we've seen throughout this whole deep dive, they have a history of innovation, adaptation, and resilience. They've faced challenges, they've overcome obstacles, they've consistently pushed the boundaries of what's possible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Microsoft, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. The future, it's not something that just happens to us. It's something we create through our choices, our actions, and how we use technology. They're playing a huge role in shaping that future, but we all have a responsibility to engage with these advancements in a thoughtful, responsible way. We have to make sure technology serves humanity and helps build a better world for everyone now and in the future.
It's a good reminder that we all have a role to play. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Microsoft. Thanks for joining us on this journey. It's been quite a ride.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and never stop imagining what's possible.